Welcome back to the Owner Seat Podcast, the show where fitness and wellness operators, franchisors, and franchisees get the real playbook on what it takes to scale with clarity, not chaos. Today's episode is for any owner who's tired of chasing novelty and wants a model where progress is the product, culture is repeatable, and the coaching standard doesn't collapse when you're not in the room. Because here's what breaks most studios. They build a brand around energy and passion, but they don't build an operating system around outcomes. And when outcomes aren't predictable, everything downstream gets shaky. Pricing, retention, coach consistency, and expansion. I'm so excited. My guest today is Chris Skeates, and Chris is one of the rare operators who blends program design and operational discipline at a high level. Chris is the franchise owner, and you've heard of this, the Yard Gym, TYG Whitby, a true strength and conditioning model built around an 8-week linear progression, heavy compound lifts on the rig side, and conditioning on the turf side. He's also the CEO of CW Wellness, where he runs one-on-one nutrition coaching and periodic cleanses so he understands results beyond the gym floor. But what makes Chris especially interesting is his background. He's a certified supply chain professional with a lean green belt, and he literally spent years building training systems, reporting, and operational discipline inside large organizations like Lowe's. He also served as an armored soldier in the Canadian Armed Forces, graduating as top candidate in multiple courses. So his leadership style is forging standards, repetition, and execution under pressure. We're jumping in and diving in deep to talk about what most owners avoid, how you design a program that creates measurable progress, how you build coach workflows so delivery is consistent, how you hold the standard without becoming the bottleneck, and how you turn good training into a business model that actually scales. Chris, so excited. Welcome to the Owner Seat Podcast, sir.
Thanks, Albert. I'm especially excited as well. It's my one of my first podcasts doing, so this is going to be a great time. Looking forward to it.
We're going to have a lot of fun. Well, you've been crushing it. I can't wait to talk about the Yard, but I do want to go back in time because what I also saw and what I didn't mention at the top here is you actually were running F45 locations too. You're a franchise owner and you transitioned to the Yard TYG Whitby. And as I mentioned, the programming, the formats, the 8-week linear progression, it's so excited. I'd love to talk about the rig and the turf. So walk us through the switch. Why F45 and what made you go through the transition to the Yard?
Yeah, I love it. So at the time, I was working at Lowe's, as you mentioned, and my wife was working at a Lululemon store, and she got invited to an F45 grand opening. And we were at this point in our lives where we were always leaning towards doing something entrepreneurial, working for ourselves. And the opportunity came up to open an F45 when Lowe's was purchased by Rona. So our jobs were getting amalgamated. So our office was closing. And so with that opportunity, we opened our first location 2.5 months prior to COVID. So that was super fun. Let's jump in both of our feet, all eggs in one basket to building a business and then forced to close. And I distinctly remember high-fiving our members, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And then that 2 weeks became almost 2 years with all the ups and downs and everything. But we did end up opening a second location through all of that as well. And then fast forward to our 5-year point. We just saw the trend in the industry and the way the science was going more towards strength training, especially as we age, get older and older. We want to make sure we're maintaining that skeletal muscle mass, bone density for just hips falling, stuff like that, just general health. We needed more strength training. And with F45 being the hit style, we were looking for something more towards that strength training with the barbell lifts. And so we came across the Yard Gym, TYG, very brand new in their franchise and just starting to sell locations. It's another
Right.
Australian brand as well, coming out of Sydney. And we looked more and more into it. And the more we looked into it, the more excited we got about bringing it to Canada. And we were fortunate enough to be the first location in Canada. And
Excellent.
there's only 3 open right now so far, but they're really focused on the States. And but yeah, that primary reason for switching was to get more strength training into the members' hands and get that opportunity for them to build their muscle mass, bone density, and just keep that same community vibe with our group training sessions.
Man, that is awesome. And congratulations. That's so
Thank you.
exciting. But I do want to go back to the F45. So you open it 2 months prior. What was it? March 16th, I think was the date where the
Yep.
world decided to shut down. Can you walk us through how did you and your wife handle that? And what was that like? I think a lot of the audience here, they love coming on to the show because owners like you that want to share the story, a lot of people can relate. I think when you look at social media nowadays and TikTok and all of that, it's like being an entrepreneur is easy, being a franchise owner is easy,
Mhm.
or franchisee, and what people don't realize, no, this is a grind. And so walk us through that, like getting through that time, then opening a second location, and how was that? Like, what were some of the highlights and the road bumps, and then what did you learn from the F45 experience that from both favorable and what, if we can go back and do it different, we're going to do it different at the yard this time around as an owner.
Yeah, I love it. So, hitting the first question there with getting through COVID, it was a very quick pivot for us. We're like,
Yeah.
okay, right away, we knew our members were going to just keep working out, and we wanted to provide them with a solution. And so, right away, we started recording at-home workouts.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so, my wife and I, we just right away just whatever we could do, prop up a camera. We've started filming workouts that our members could do at home. And that slowly evolved to, instead of just sending a recording, now we were running Zoom workouts where the recording would be playing, but there would be a coach watching all the
Amazing.
members and still trying to cue form and motivation. And you had a little bit of that sense of community with all the tiles
Right.
on a screen. And so that was part of it for a while. And then just dealing with the ever changing restrictions, like, oh, you can have 5 people in a room together. Oh, you can have 10. Now let's go back to 5. And just
Right.
always constantly keeping up with that and just being open to change. And for humans, that stuff are very routine based, and implementing change, even change in habits, is as we'll get into, I'm sure, with the nutrition coaching piece.
Right.
That's the toughest thing. So as quick as possible, we gave them that solution, and yeah, just kept pivoting so that they had an option to still work out. And many members needed it, not just from a physical standpoint for results, but from a mental standpoint, because the connections to humans were cut off, and so anything we could do to help bring that connection there. So that was the first problem and a
Yeah.
roadblock that we got through. And um,
Amazing.
it was all about, yeah, staying on our toes and being able to
Mm.
pivot and change direction. Sometimes it was weekly. Like this week they were saying one thing, and then next week is another. Next week back to the other. They were figuring it out just as we were, with all the
Yeah.
restrictions and stuff. So um, that was definitely a challenge. And like you said, it's COVID notwithstanding, ownership, any business, it's a grind at first. And
Yeah.
learning the systems and learning your time and prioritizing what tasks to focus on, what really moves the needle versus it's just kind of background noise, and figuring that out in the beginning. And then, yeah, we opened our second studio. So we actually signed for our second studio 2 weeks prior to COVID hitting. So
Wow.
right at the end of February there. And we
I
saw
can't
the
imagine
runway.
when you're thinking about your investments. You're like, oh no,
Yeah, yeah. So
that's stressful.
yeah, very stressful. And um, granted, that's probably the one mistake where we expanded a little too fast, too soon.
Mm. Mm.
Um, again, COVID notwithstanding, we saw the runway of where the studio, that projection was going, and we're like,
Right.
yeah, you know what? If we open that second studio in about a year, once we find real estate and we know that leadway, we'll be in a really good spot here where it's kind of running itself, and we can put a studio manager in place, focus on the next one. That was the game plan, and then COVID threw everything up in the air, and
Right.
all the
Right.
balls are coming down. We're trying to juggle them, but we had a business partner for that second location, so that certainly helped, and allowed us to split our time. But due to COVID, it was a big split of our time where we were trying to be in two places at once.
Sure.
Plus, we had our young family, so our kids were getting up in the years, so starting to get like 3, 4 age range
Yeah.
through those years, and they're 9 and 7 now. So
It's
it was
amazing.
just busy all around, and it was a little too much due to COVID, and we were all trying to reopen at the same time. So that was the next kind of struggle post COVID, was all of these fitness studios were trying to gain the same member base back
Right.
and pull from the same pool of people, and it was a
Yeah, it was a
smaller
knife
pool.
fight for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So it was tough in that sense for sure.
And so what did the exit look like in the transition to? Did you convert the F45s to the yard, or was this a complete separate location in Canada?
Yeah, so with our second studio, our second location that we ended up opening, we closed that one down. It just didn't really, after COVID, it didn't stand a chance. There was
Yeah,
too many F45s all around it. Um,
sure.
like at one point, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Durham region in our area, but
Mhm.
at one point for about a population of around 400, 500,000, with all the cities combined, there were 9 F45s in there.
Yeah.
And you could almost like a Tim Hortons, poke your head out the window and see the next one down the street. Like there's a lot, and there's a lot of internal competition, and the positioning of our second location, there was a rainbow of studios around it. So
Sure.
we ended up closing that one early, and then the location I'm sitting in right now is our TYG, which was our F45. So we transitioned this location once our 5-year franchise agreement with F45 expired.
Got it. So yeah, can you walk us through that? And then I definitely want to get, and I'm sure you're excited to go through the science around
Yes,
the progression format of the 8 week program. Because everyone I talk to that goes to the yard, they're getting results. And I think a lot of studios need to hear from you around how are you doing this from onboarding and scheduling and programming and follow up and accountability. But
love
before
it.
we get there, can you walk us through? Because we actually haven't had any guests that have converted, once the agreement or contract, expired to a different brand. And so you're one of the first, your first podcast, and you're one of the first to
Love
chat through
it.
this. And I'm sure there's people out there, right? Because you seem to be, you and your wife, you all, you're obviously very well informed and educated, and you pivot when you know it's the right thing to do.
Love it.
So it sounds like this is one of those scenarios. So how is that process? Is that a hard process? Is it an expensive process? What does that look like?
Yeah, it really depends on the agreement that you have in place with current franchisor. So we had a lawyer review our documents and make sure that we were able to legally make that transition. Um, Truth be told, and this is public news, so I'm free to talk about it, but
Yeah.
we were sued by F45 for the transition. So they applied for a permanent injunction, meaning trying to shut us down for
Mhm.
TYG. And so that it was a good thing we did our due diligence prior to and making sure that legally we were sound to do the change.
Right.
But we did have to go through a legal battle there, and that did get quite costly.
I bet.
But we ended up winning that injunction, and
Good.
we've been open for almost a year now post that. So it delayed our opening pretty significantly by an extra 2 months compared to the 1 month we wanted to have off during like Christmas time. Um, so getting through that was difficult. It was new kind of stress that we've never experienced before, although we had some good stressful training with COVID and pivoting that way. But we got through that and I worked very closely with our legal team to make sure that we secured the rights to open TYG, and we got that open. And now looking forward with the strength and conditioning gym, because it's so different. That was another aspect and angle. But for any franchisees that are looking to maybe make that switch, yeah, do your due diligence, get somebody, a franchise lawyer, to review your current agreement and see if that's even plausible, possible, whether it's like an expiry or they might need to ask for permission from their current franchisor. It really depends on how their agreement is specifically written. And we end up finding out every agreement can be slightly worded differently or negotiated at the front on the front end. So everything's going to be, there's no blanket yes or no. It's, you gotta do your due diligence, have someone review, and make sure you're in the clear.
Chris, that is a lot. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about the agreement side of things, but I just think back when you first started your F45 to then 5 years later, well, then the second location all through the pandemic, and then 5 years later you're transitioning and then finding out, I'd imagine they served you in some sort of way. And thank you for sharing this.
Pleasure.
That's a lot of life events. And
Yeah.
I'm so much respect for you and your
Thank you.
wife. How, and with two babies, like two kids, right? And they're
Yeah.
growing. I mean, that's a lot of stress on the household. And I brought up on the top here your military background, and I'd love to touch into, like, how did you get through this? Was it the military? Was it some sort of belief system, faith? Like, how did you and your wife? That is, I can't imagine the conversations behind closed doors. And this is
Yeah.
what people don't realize sometimes. Like, there's families behind these franchise units, right? There's a lot
Absolutely.
at stake, not just your money, but there's just a lot going on that can impact families and marriages. And how did you all get through that?
Yeah, yeah, great question. And looking back, it's like I don't even know. But to short answer, I've been reading. Well, just overall, just like how I'm a coach for our members, I
Yeah.
found coaching, and I found a coach to help us through. I've always had a coach since we started the process. Whether it be in a group scenario for businesses specific to franchise, like fitness franchises, or just business entrepreneurship in general. I've read a lot of self-help, manifestation type of books. So
Of that.
taking all of that knowledge together to get through the stressful situations, and a testament to my wife and our marriage, and being able to have those hard conversations of, shit, we might have to move into my parents' basement for a period of
Yeah.
time, so that which, true story, we had to do that with our kids, like six of us living in a house for a few months just to get through that time frame. And we got through it during COVID, and we were able to get back on our feet. And because this place is it's our sole income for Whit and our kids, putting food on the table. And we're at a really good place now, a year into TYG. But yeah, having that support system with close family, friends, and Whit and I being able to talk through it. Whit's my wife, by the way. So
Yeah.
Whit and I being able to talk through it, and talk about, like, okay, this is the situation. This is the funds coming in versus what we have coming out. Like, these are the changes we need to make. And again, that pivoting and changing. So to answer your question, it's a combination of all. And I don't think there's any one piece that got us through. Like, I can't definitively say, yeah, as a military experience, that's the only thing, but that was definitely part of it to get through those tough times. And a lot of the military training is, people are screaming at you, and not just they have fun screaming at you, because I've been on the other side of it, being a
Yeah.
bit of that, getting through instructor training and stuff like that. But they enjoy it a little bit, but it's for a purpose, because when you're in a war zone, it's not instructors screaming at you. It's like bullets flying by you, and that's the scenarios, the stressful situations you're placed under. But you have to have a clear head and have a plan and have that direction for you and your crew. So that was definitely a big part of it that helped. It's like, okay, we're under stress, but here's let's find that path forward, and what's just that next step, what's the next step, and
Yeah.
one step at a time. And I say this to nutrition clients all the time: you can walk around the world one step at a time. Yeah, it's going to take a long time, and you might have to swim for half of it too, but you can do it. It's just one step at a time. You're not going to get across the world overnight, and just setting those expectations. And the same thing going through these hard times, one step at a time. What's the next best step?
Yeah.
And that'll get you through. And then eventually you can see 10 steps ahead, 15 steps ahead. But sometimes when it's so dark and cloudy, you can only see that next step. And that's you take that next step forward, and that's your best path for sure.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
I admire you and Whit. Great job.
Thank you.
Just getting through that's very difficult, and it's just a testament to the resilience of the marriage, the family, right? The foundation, and having that family support too during that experience. So
Absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm getting into it now. Let's talk about the moving forward, right? Let's talk about the programming and the science. Talk to me about the yard, because I've been hearing about this, as I mentioned, the 8-week progression promise. People are getting results, and I think there's a lot of brands out there. One, these studios are beautiful, right? The design, right? The square footage, all of it. But then you're hearing people coming in and out in the community, and you're noticing the physical, the mental changes. So walk me through that, and then I'd love to get into the nutrition programming too, because that's a major part of all of this, and your ability to create an ecosystem. I'm really excited to talk about that too. But let's start with the yard.
Yeah, I love it. So with the yard, it's like you said, that 8-week strength and conditioning program where linear progression model, we go from higher rep counts, longer duration on the turf side. So more of that endurance pacing and hypertrophy training on the rig side, all the way down to that pure strength where we go to a 3 or 1 rep max. So you're going into that pure strength, max lifts on the rig side, and then your max efforts on turf. And the turf side with your max efforts is like a 20-second sprint. Your max is going to be different than my max, my wife's max. Everyone's max is their own, but you're going all out. And we treat those. That's in your week 6 of the 8. We treat those weeks as like your final push. It's testing. We're seeing how far you've come along. Then we do a 2-week deload to realign the body. I joke that it's not a deload, just a reload of different muscle groups or the supporting muscle groups. So often, sometimes that align phase, the last couple of weeks, where it could be even more difficult than previous weeks, just because we're using muscles that we don't typically use, but are more supporting in nature. And then we rest, recover, and reset for that next 8-week block where we should start at that higher base. So one thing we do with the members is really encourage, not everyone does it, but we really encourage them to write down their weights they're using during each week. So in week 1, we focus on 10 reps of our main lifts. And with those 10 reps, what weight did you get to? You should be a little bit higher when we go down to 8 reps the next week, a little bit more weight for 6 reps, a little bit more when we continue following that linear progression. And that is what builds that muscular endurance, your strength endurance, and then that pure strength. Reset the body with that align phase, and then we attack that next 8-week block where they can look back in their notes. Okay, last 8-week block, when we started, we were at 10 reps at whatever, 50 kgs. I should be at 55, 60, somewhere a little bit higher for the 10 reps. And now you have that slightly higher base.
Amazing.
So it's been really amazing to see, Albert, is with that perform phase, when we're in the testing block, a lot of members, every single 8-week block, are hitting new PRs. So we call it PR week now here. And not everyone hits them. not every 8 weeks, myself included, but for the most part, you have that progression. And like you mentioned, it's a fine balance between novelty and having something new, variety, which keeps the members
Mhm.
coming back. It's challenging in a different way versus that steady, we're going to repeat these movements for all 8 weeks, where you see that progression. So it's a balance between the two. You want some variety, but just enough to keep it changing and different each week, and then enough of that stability where you actually see the progress and results.
So good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. There's still this community aspect, which I think this is where the boutique studio industry has just crushed it, right? There's also this level of individual coaching because people still need that, especially with this wave of GLPs and peptides. There needs to be a level of strength training. That's where everything's going. You mentioned it at the top. The science is moving there, right? So there's community, there's strength training, there's actual dedicated coaching and a structured programming from progression and regressions, right? Modifications. And then it sounds like you all have a layer of accountability and measuring, which is great. And it seems like you're recognizing that. So you have all the ingredients of all the things that many, in years past, these studios did well or didn't do well. And I think the yard has just been, it sounds like you all are focused on that being the core, and
Yeah.
it just makes so much sense. And then you're layering in, a big aspect of nutrition. I mean, it's huge, right? I feel like it's blowing up again. There's obviously supplementation and cleansing, and people are just wanting to feel good. And they know I can do all the strength training in the world, but if my nutrition is just not there, it's more difficult, right? So how do you introduce that within your ecosystem?
Yeah, I love it. And you hit the nail on the head too with the community aspect, the yard gym, where let's say me, you, and one other buddy, we're going to a big box gym to do our lift, and we're taking our time doing our bench press or whatever it is. Everyone loves to bench,
Oh,
but now you have a coach with you that's watching your form, and you have eight more groups of three guys or girls that are all lifting together, and you have that drive. So you have the energy of everyone in a group like that, but it's just the three of us working out, three buddies having a good time, taking our rest, but you have the coach and the group environment. So that motivating factor really helps with the results. And then in terms of the nutrition side and that piece with CW Wellness, we always coach our members, and from the top down, I drive this into our coaches' hands as well, and into their minds, where you can't out train a bad diet. You
yeah.
have to have, I call it my 4 pillars of health. So sleep, number one,
Mm.
above nutrition, hydration.
By the way, on LinkedIn, you post a lot about this. I was really curious
Yes.
about your research on sleep. And this is, I mean, I just saw the other day, I forget what the brand was, but they're literally doing sleep classes.
Amazing.
Think group, large group training, but for sleep. And they set it
Amazing.
up and people are learning the mechanics of good sleep hygiene. Very
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah. So, as part of, like I mentioned earlier, all the like self-help and coaching books that I've been going through and having that group coaching, sleep was one that kept coming up. And as part of all of my nutrition and personal training, group fitness certificates, sleep is a big portion of that. And when
Amazing.
we lack sleep, you're going to lack results. When you
Mhm.
lack sleep, you lack that mental clarity to make healthy choices when you're eating.
Right.
So sleep is a number one lever you can pull to increase your results in any gym setting, let alone when you have a amazing structured program like the yard gym. So sleep number one, and then right underneath that, separate out hydration from nutrition, kind of included with
Mhm.
nutrition, but hydration specifically, not just water, but salt water, getting the minerals, electrolytes, stuff like that. And then you have nutrition. And then the fourth pillar, after you're fixing all of those, comes exercise. And for most people, myself included, getting started, everyone starts with, okay, I'm starting a new exercise program, joining a new gym. And that's the catalyst or motivating factor to start working on nutrition, hydration, and sleep. Um,
Amazing.
but if people did it in reverse, the exercise piece becomes a lot easier. But everyone's a little bit different, what motivates them. So if it's the exercise piece, joining a new gym, it's okay. That's my jump start. New year, new me, or whatever it is, whatever your new year is. It can start, your new year can start tomorrow, right? And with that, they can start that new gym, new workout routine, and that becomes the catalyst to, okay, now I'm going to start focusing on my recovery. How do I do that in terms of sleep, hydration, nutrition? And so I coach our members a lot on, and just little tips and tricks here and there. And then I also take on primarily our member base, but outside the studio as well, one-on-one nutrition clients to coach them through those top three things. Because again, most of them already have that exercise workout piece happening, whether it's at our gym or elsewhere. But yeah,
Amazing. Love it. I love
thank
it.
you.
There's a lot going on there, but I
Hmm.
think you have an amazing ecosystem going there. So let's switch gears into the playbook, right? So you learned a ton from the F45 history and experience. Now at the yard, from a coach standpoint, as I think about scaling and about the experience here, as I'm hearing it and knowing what I know about the yard, the coach is so important. So how do you find the best coaches out there? What does their training and development look like? And then I'd love to go into very high level, right? Not to get into any details, but around the financial playbook regarding dashboards and visibility, so measuring the business outcomes. So start with
Yep.
the coaches. How do you find the best coaches out there? Are they familiar with the yard? It's a fairly new brand, right?
Yeah, so very brand new brand, especially in Canada. Like I said, we're the first in Canada for a period of 9 months before the second location opened up in Calgary, and now the third location just opened up a couple weeks ago on the other side of Ontario. So we're on the eastern side, east of Toronto. They just opened up Western Ontario out there. So very brand new brand. So a lot of our education and coaches come from our social media where they can
Yeah.
see what type of workouts we're doing. We post a lot of educational content on just what the yard is and what TYG and how they structure the 8 weeks, what each phase is, what the
Amazing.
stimulus is supposed to be. And to be honest, Albert, it's naturally attracted high level quality coaches that are already strength and conditioning coaches with
I love it.
years of experience. And
And I'm
um,
sure they love the science, the mechanics, the programming behind it.
yes,
Coaches love that.
yes. And for us, it's very easy to execute. The programming comes from TYG HQ. They're the masterminds behind it, and they do incredible work in Australia. It's a personal training program, but designed for a group setting, and so you get that one-on-one feeling. And so that program, it's on our screens, ready to go, text on the screens, and it's up to the coach to really demo it properly and then coach it one-on-one, get in there, make those tweaks to each individual member, what their ability is, but also if they have any sort of limitations, range of movement, shoulder injuries prior to coming in, like old sports injuries, things like that. And that coaching development piece, we do an extensive training with all of our coaches before they get on the floor, shadow shifts, and yeah, we look for experienced coaches, but it's garnered and attracted those experienced coaches already.
Amazing.
Hmm.
And then from an operational playbook specific to any of the things from an owner's lens on how you measure the business results, not necessarily, the programming and all that, but more so member count and the unit economics. Can you walk us through what that experience has been like with the yard or in general, just as a franchise owner?
Yep.
How do you make sure that you feel really good about your finger being on the pulse financially?
Yeah, I love it. So almost weekly, I will run reporting where I'll look at like you said, our key metrics. And you want to do this for any business, but specifically for fitness, I'll look at how many leads do we have coming in each week?
Mhm.
How many first visits? So how many of those leads are actually coming in for a trial? How many of those trials are actually signing up? So I look at those conversion rates week over week over week. I also look at our top line sales numbers weekly. I'll also look at the member count, new members and different buckets of members, whether they're full-time or part-time class pack type members.
Mhm.
And just pulling those metrics weekly allows me to see a very quick trend if we need to make any changes. So it allows for quick adjustments and pivots when needed, where it's like, okay, our lead flow is starting to come down. Maybe we need to do something external, an event, or boost
Mhm.
some Facebook,
Love it.
Instagram ads, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it allows me to look at it weekly and see where we might need to change and adjust and take it from there. And no different than how our members are looking at their weight selection over that linear progression. And if they aren't seeing the results, what do they need to change with their habits outside? So it keeps that pulse and allows us to make those changes. And then I'll pull quarterly reports and work with our accountant and stuff like that and go through making sure ratios are proper, sales to
Good
expenses
for
and all that
you.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. And you're in it, man. I love it.
Thank you.
You're definitely in it, owner. And let me guess, are you and Wit teaching any classes or anything like that?
A ton. So I open the studio
I
every
love it.
day. Yeah.
Yes, man, you're
Uh,
in it. You're
Yes,
fully
in
invested.
it. I love it. And we'll even do like from the ground all the way up, all the tasks. We'll vacuum, we'll clean bathrooms. Like we're in there
Wow.
just the same
Good for
as our
you.
coaches. And um, out of all of the tasks, being the fitness owner, the coaching is my absolute favorite. I also love working out with the members too, but coaching
Yeah.
is my favorite thing to do. All the other stuff is pulling me away from coaching, but necessary evil, I guess. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, be proud, sir. I'm sure the
Thank you.
community loves spending time with you. I mean, again, just thinking back about your journey, you and Wit, and what you've gone through, and you're still in it. You're still digging in and hip to hip with them. That is a brand and an owner that,
Love it.
as a consumer, as a member, I want to be a part of. So sticky, sticky. I love it. That's
Yeah, I love
awesome.
it.
Well, I got a couple more questions, and this is
Sure.
actually now getting even higher level around because I just really appreciate your experience. Not many have gone through the different, as I mentioned, life events, right? The
Yep.
changes. So, what's your recommendation for all of those that are thinking about investing in a franchise brand when it comes to the FDD, when it comes to the due diligence process, as you've learned along the way? Is there any advice that you've give to the audience listening that is thinking about investing in a fitness or wellness brand?
Yeah, great question. First thing, if your first time, real estate is much more difficult to find than people first think. So when Whit and I first got into it, we're like, okay, yeah, we'll be open in like 6 months, no problem. Try to build at least a year leadway from when you're looking at signing your franchise agreement. Now you start your process looking for a viable location that makes sense in terms of the rent and expenses wise, and do up your budgets projections and know how many members it's going to take to break even, and what you're going to spend on marketing. Just have that the financial picture before you get into it, making sure and budget for like 20% more, because when
Mhm.
construction comes about, there's always additional construction costs that you run into. There's always going to be more either marketing or other types of costs that you just can't account for everything. So budget a little bit higher for sure, and budget more time. And then aside from that, just yeah, be ready to put in the work, especially with TYG. They look for owners that are owner operators, not owner
Mhm.
investors. And yeah, they want their owners in there working side by side with coaches and developing the studio space. And it's our third baby. It's our third kid, and just as old as our current kid. So yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
So good. Well, Chris, this has been amazing. I really appreciate the vulnerability, the authenticity.
My pleasure.
Yeah, you are the hip to hip leader. You're in it. You and Whit are in it, in the
Yes,
grind.
sir.
And just as I mentioned, first, thank you for your service. And thank you for
Thank you.
being an inspiration for us to just keep digging in and being resilient.